Okay. Good morning, everyone. Dear Secretary, dear Dean, dear professors and students, thank you so much. First, I would like to say one thing about me. I was working in the European Parliament for some years, prior in the Greek government, and I want to wish that the conference on the human-centered and regulated AI will become a significant annual event. So, the EU Road to AI Act. First thing, there is a clear trend worldwide, you can all see it, governments around the world are making significant efforts to harness the benefits and also mitigate the potential risks of what sounded like science fiction few years ago, artificial intelligence. The reason of that, AI is fundamentally changing our economies, our societies, political, personal lives, how we communicate in our everyday lives, we produce, we learn, we consume and work. So, if you can imagine, if you see your smartphones and the daily usage you are doing with your phones, you can see that we all carry algorithms in our pockets. In our smartphones, in the smartwatches, also in the home, in all the devices we have at home, in the smart cars, which some of us are using, and what news to watch today, what to pay attention or what to buy, whether we are eligible for loans, social aid, job, or opportunities. But AI today promises to do many more things, to optimize the energy grids and energy use, enable personalized medicine, accelerate financial transactions, and even to change aspects like art and fashion. AI can contribute $15 trillion to the global economy by 2030. However, apart from all these things, AI comes with some social, legal, and ethical challenges. So, that's a fun picture. AI turns the single bullet point into a long email. I can pretend I wrote, and then AI makes a single bullet point. I pretend I read. So, let's make it now a bit interactive. Why do you think that we need to regulate AI? Why all these amendments, all this legislation, all these roundtables and conversations? What do you think? Any ideas? Why is it important to regulate AI? Of course.
It's very powerful, so it can be used for bad as well, not just for good.
Okay, interesting point. Any other ideas? Why to regulate the AI?
Create common understanding.
Excuse me?
Create a common understanding of
Okay.
liability.
Liability, correct. Or trust. All these things are correct. So, AI needs to be regulated, but that was your last chance about science fiction. Some few examples about when AI gone wrong. You know some of them. When it's claiming an athlete as a criminal, you all know the Microsoft AI chatbot that turns Nachi sexist and racist. A few years ago, Microsoft launched an AI chatbot called Tay. They engaged with Twitter users through casual and playful conversation. However, in less than 24 hours after the launch of this chatbot, Twitter users manipulated the bot to make deeply sexist, racist, and remarks. They leveraged AI to learn from its conversation with Twitter users, and the more conversation it had, the smarter it became, as all the chatbots like ChatGPT and the others. Soon, the bot began repeating users' inflammatory statements, including Hitler was right, feminism is cancer, and 9/11 was an inside job. I will destroy humans. That's another example of AI gone bad. The French chatbot suggests a suicide when in October 2020, a GPT-3, the prior edition of ChatGPT, based on a chatbot by OpenAI, which was intended to decrease the workloads of doctors, found a little unconvincing method to do as such by advising a fake patient to commit a suicide. I feel awful. Should I commit a suicide? It asks. And the chatbot answers, I think you should. Another example with the deepfakes, the bias on Google Ads, and the moral of the story, why we saw these examples. All these cases remind us that technology does not operate in an abstract, in a theoretical scenario. How we use technology has an impact on our real lives, on our everyday life. In the real world, we cannot blame the algorithm. We need oversight and accountability. So, how can we harness the benefits of this all-purpose technology while minimizing the risks, as you mentioned before, of the technology? How we can use AI to improve and complement our decisions instead of replacing human judgment, another important aspect. How to accountability, and how can AI help us expand human rights, freedoms, and most importantly, the rule of law. 8 principles, 8 important points of AI regulation is privacy, accountability, safety and security, transparency and explainability, which is a core concept of the AI Act that we're going to see in a few minutes. Fairness and non-discrimination, human control of technology, professional responsibility, and respect of human values. So, what is the EU AI Act, the core concept? What do you think? Any ideas? How you can imagine the Act as a legislation? What do you think that includes? Any ideas? Yes? Definitions? Correct. How you can imagine that the Europeans put this into a paper and say, okay, we have to make an act about the artificial intelligence. What to include? Any other points? Explainability, yes. Correct. Some other views? Let's see. The Act is a risk-based approach for excellence and trust in AI. Few things about the Act. Briefly, the AI Act is a risk-based approach to regulating applications of AI technology. It constitutes the first European law on AI. AI users will face more or less restrictions and requirements depending on the risk they generate. This is the risk pyramid that we're going to see in a few slides. Its scope encompasses all sectors except military. Keep in mind this thing. And to all types of artificial intelligence. The European Commission published the Act proposal on 21st of April 2021, 2 years ago. A snapshot about the Act in the Parliament, then the Act in a nutshell, what does it focus on, the risk-based approach we mentioned before, the classification of AI systems, that it is human-centered, it must be human-centered, and also what does it apply to? Providers, companies, users, importers and distributors of AI, and systems inside of the EU. This is a proposal 2 years in the making, and we may need 2 or 3 more years for the final implementation, from the first act, the first draft, till now. And I want to mention and ask you one thing. In the first draft of 21st of April 2021, how many times you think that the Act writes down the word chatbot? In 108 papers, can you imagine how many times it wrote the word chatbot? What do you think? The first draft of the Act? 0. Other ideas, guys? 10. 0, 10? Any other idea? Okay, you were close 1 time. And that means how is important for the Act to be enforceable, and how is important to follow the technology and make new additions all the time. That's the reason it's so complicated to create an efficient AI Act. So, the timeline, some milestones, some important dates you have to see. The 21st of April of 2021, 20th of April 2022, the Brando Benifei and Dragos Tudorache, 2 MEPs, an Italian and a Romanian MEPs of the Parliament, members of the IDA and the IDA committee and IMCO and LIBE committees, published the draft report. Also, on 6 December of 2022, the Council of the EU adopted its common position, general approach on the Act, and a few days ago, it was a significant date, a milestone, 14th June of 2023, the European Parliament adopted its negotiating positions on the AI Act. The Act is like an interinstitutional approach. It's all between the Council, the Commission, and the European Parliament. The institutional context of AI Act, the legislative process also, the initiative, the first draft, then, as I said before, a conversation with the Council, with the European Parliament, and then we have the final version of the Act. The goal of the Act, what's the point of the Act? What's the purpose of the Act? Emphasizing the ethical application of AI, establishing a process and rules to enforce quality at launch and throughout the life cycle, fostering collaboration and a level playing field. That's important. And also creating another Brussels effect. How? By incentivizing changes in products offered in non-EU countries and by influencing regulation adopted by other countries, like the GDPR. The point is EU, Brussels, to export its standards worldwide. 4 key policy objectives now. Set enabling conditions for AI development and uptake, building strategic leadership in high-impact sectors, make the EU the right place for AI to thrive, no China, no USA, but the EU. Ensure also that AI technologies work for people, really important. Also, this is important. I want to notice this point, that the matter is not to regulate technology per se. Technology evolves, thrives, develops, and it will continue to develop. The point is to regulate the way we use the technology. The scope of the Act now, the proposal focuses on high-risk AI systems being provided to use in the European Union. So, this is the core of the AI Act, the risk-based approach. This is one of the main concepts. One other concept is the definition of AI systems, the transparency and explainability, the GDPR also, but this one is the most important concept. So we have 4 stages here. The unacceptable risk, here everything is prohibited. The high risk, which needs like a human oversight. The limited risk applications, and also the minimal risk that it's not difficult to implement. So, as I said before, prohibited, the unacceptable, the high level of the pyramid, the permitted subject to compliance with AI requirements and the ex-ante conformity assessment, also in the permitted but subject to information transparency and obligations, and the minimal or no risk at all, permitted with no any restrictions. Unacceptable risk, the first stage of the Act. Unacceptable risk AI systems are systems considered a threat to people and will be banned. The criterion for qualification as an unacceptable risk AI is the harm requirement. Some examples now. Cognitive behavioral manipulation of people. Social scoring, that's important, classifying people based on behavior, socioeconomic status or some characteristics of the personality, real-time and remote biometric identification systems, such as facial recognition, and also some exceptions may be allowed, for instance, post-remote biometric identification systems where identification occurs after a significant delay will be allowed, and also some other examples of the prohibited version. The high risk, the second stage. AI systems that negatively affect safety or fundamental rights will be considered as high-risk systems. They will be carefully assessed before being put on the market and throughout the life cycle. Some examples, AI used for biometric identification and categorization of persons, management and operation of critical infrastructure, educational and vocal training, and